Alderman Roy Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Here.
Alderman Jacob.
Here.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Catalano.
Here.
Alderman Sismarski.
Here.
Alderman Messina.
Here.
Alderman Woods.
Here. I declare a quorum present. Please stand and join in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, go ahead.
Additional roll call, Mayor of Police.
Here. Next, I need a motion to approve the minutes of June 20th, 2019.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any questions, comments, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Do any citizens wish to be heard on matters not listed on the agenda? Okay. I have no written communique this evening. On the mayor's report, we just want to wish our clerk, Shirley Siebert, a speedy recovery. Hopefully she's doing well and hope to have her back soon. Mr. Murmas, city manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a number of reports this evening. First and foremost, and of the utmost importance, we want to remind residents to stay safe. We obviously have dangerous heat upon us the next few days. Would like to remind everybody that City Hall is, of course, always a cooling center 24/7, along with the library and park district during their operating hours. Second item, we are planning to schedule our additional brush collection pickup for the week of August 12th. This is the halfway point between our last previous pickup on July 8th for the storm and our next scheduled pickup on the 16th. So this is that one additional pickup we're able to have in our contract, and that'll be August 12th brush collection. I have two more items. Prairie Fest begins 1 week from tonight, and we kick things off with Resident Appreciation Night as always. Every Wooddale resident will receive a free $5 food voucher to spend at any of the food vendors there. Just bring proof of residency to the beverage ticket tent to receive your voucher. Prairie Fest has expanded a little bit this year with the addition of a car show on Friday night, and we also have expanded children's entertainment and a great lineup of bands. Of course, we have our fireworks as usual, carnival rides, games, bingo, food, and more entertainment. Prairie Fest has something to offer every member of the family. You can find out more information at wooddale.com/prairiefest. And my last item, I will turn it over to Fire Chief Burke, who has a brief presentation he'd like to go over. So I'll turn it over to Chief Burke at this point.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us tonight. I wanted to start out tonight by first and foremost thanking you, thanking the council, and specifically Alderman Eugene Wesley for helping us obtain the houses up there in Washington for training. I apologize to everybody in the room that may have been getting phone calls about smoke issues and the like. We try our best to try and get that communication out to everybody in the neighborhood to let them know that we're going to be doing this and what we're doing and why we're doing it. I just wanted to thank you guys for putting up with us in that regard. That type of training, in all honesty, probably happens once or twice in a firefighter's career. It's totally invaluable. We probably had 12 different towns in here. I can't say enough about the value of that training that went on there. So thank you, Eugene, again, for helping us do that. Which brings me to why we're here tonight. I'm guessing that probably many of you have heard by now that the fire district is looking at a referendum, and this would happen in March of 2020, so this next March. I thought it was important here tonight to come to you guys and let you know why we're doing it, why we need it, what it's intended for, what it's not intended for, and certainly allow you guys to ask questions, after the presentation. I'll try to make this brief. I'm going to kind of go through this quickly because I don't want to monopolize your whole meeting here. So the first question is why present to the council? My experience has been with referendums that many of the residents here do not realize that the district is not attached to the city in any way. Again, you guys know that I'm also over in Itasca. I was in Addison for many years. It's no different in those communities either. There's a sense that because it says Wooddale Fire on the side, that it's attached to the city. So you guys are going to get a lot of questions on this. There's no doubt in my mind. So I think it's important that you guys kind of understand at least the basic thoughts as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. So that's why we're here tonight. The other thing too is that certainly if you as the city council have questions, you can call myself or Pat anytime you want. We're willing to come out and meet with anybody, homeowners groups, businesses, citizens, one-on-one, doesn't matter. We're willing to do that, willing to meet with you guys one-on-one if that's what you want to do. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us if there's something you want to talk about. Certainly we would look for and respectfully ask for your support. Referendums are not easy. I get it. I wouldn't be here tonight if I had other options. So brings us kind of around full circle. I don't know how much of this you guys know, how much of this you don't know. So I'm going to kind of briefly go through this. Where does our revenue come from? Plain and simple, it's property tax. Fire districts are bound by the tax cap or the CPI, whichever is lower. We have no statutory authority, zero, to levy any kind of special tax whatsoever. So our primary income comes from property tax and then fee-based items, mostly ambulance billing. Okay, but the lion's share of the money we operate in comes from the taxpayers. What does that formula look like? The levy formula, not to get too deep into it, but is last year's tax dollars times the CPI or 5%, whichever's lower, plus any new growth. Now, new growth is one of those variables where when you have a community that, in this case, Wooddale, that's been pretty aggressive with trying to draw new businesses and promote new growth, that's great. Eventually, that will pay dividends for not just us, but any of the other taxing bodies as well. The problem is that there's a lag time there, as you well know, between getting the businesses in, getting the businesses, the buildings built, and getting them occupied. So new growth here in this community, at least based on the numbers we were given for our district, it was $2 million last year. That doesn't equate to a whole lot of money for us as far as increased in any kind of revenue. The CPI numbers there, as I said, have averaged about 1.85% over the years listed there. And again, our levy can only go up the CPI or 5%, whichever is lower. And you can see in 10 years there, that's been the extent of what the CPI has been. What other revenue issues do we have here? You guys probably are aware that there's the PTAB board, or the Property Tax Appeals Board. This affects anybody that's a taxing body. We're not unique in that arena. But just to give you some sense of what's happening to fire district revenues as of late, $233 or $233,000 we've lost since 2012, or 2012 to 2018. Sliding over to the TIF districts. Again, the slide is up here in no way, shape, or form to be derogatory towards the city, so please, it's not intended to be such. We understand the TIFs. It's more illustrative than anything. That dollar figure there is the total dollar figure we've lost in 4 years on revenue based on the TIF, okay? So you start adding these numbers up, these are big numbers for us. Why do we need a referendum? Here's where we are today. Staffing levels. So if we go back just to looking at 2018 and the snapshot of that year, we ran at minimum staffing 90% of the, over 90% of the time. What is minimum staffing for us? It's one engine company, one paramedic unit, and one battalion chief. So that's 6 people. Now, I don't know if you've ever given any thought, or some of you may know, many of you may not know, that is not a whole lot of people to staff 2 fire stations here in town. Maximum staffing for us, and this has been in place for 20 years, over 20 years, is 8 personnel per shift. 3 shifts of 8 is normal staffing for us. We are currently, sliding over to what we've done to adjust, we've had to freeze 3 positions. So we're down 1 position each shift. So that leaves us with 3 shifts of 7. In a cost-saving measure, yours truly is obviously working here and over in Itasca, and that's working very well, by the way. Been here a little over a year, about a year and 2 months. It's going very well. We're utilizing mutual aid a lot more. We've been doing this. This is the nature of the fire service. We lean on each other when we have to. The downside with losing positions is that overtime starts to creep in. So for us, our overtime budget's been kind of crazy here the last few years because of the loss of the staffing. We're always looking for grant monies. Doesn't matter if we're talking about staffing, vehicles, stations, you name it. We're looking for grant monies, always applying for them, okay? We've got 3 federal grants we're waiting to hear on now. Apparatus. So our vehicles, as you can probably imagine, fire vehicles are not cheap. We have not had any new purchases in the district in over 6 years now. The average age of the fleet is over 11 years. We're having more issues with breakdowns. Our call volume is up 35% in 10 years. And obviously that leads to increased maintenance costs. We run a lot of calls here. We run about 2,500 calls a year. That's a lot of calls. What does it cost to buy a new rig? Well, those are just some ballpark figures, but an ambulance is about $250, an engine can cost $600, and a ladder truck is close to $1 million. So what have we done to adjust in that arena? We've put our new purchases on hold. We've had to. We're making more frequent repairs to our existing fleet. We've downsized the fleet. Again, looking for grant money, and we're having, legitimate discussions with our neighbors on perhaps sharing vehicles, actually going in and perhaps sharing in the cost of the purchase of new vehicles. That's very recent, those discussions have been happening. What else? Station maintenance. We need 2 fire stations here, gang. There's no getting around this. I'll show you a map in a minute that outlines this. The problem with stations, and these stations are nearly 50 years old, is that they need maintenance, they need repairs, they need updates. These are just a couple of the big ticket items at Station 69, which is the park, the Georgetown station over there. We've got some big repairs there that need to be made, and we've been kind of sitting on these. So again, we've put the replacements, or we've got a new HVAC system we need. The HVAC system is sold, and that station that they have to fabricate parts in order to make the repairs. So we're at that point where a lot of this work is a necessity. It's not even an option anymore. Much of the equipment is outdated. The map you're looking at here are the 2 stations and the outline of the district here. The blue dots you see there represent calls that encompass about 14 months, 15 months worth of calls. Every dot you see on there, and there's 3,000 of them, are calls that we responded to in those 14, 15-month time frame. So you can see where the stations are located and where the calls are occurring. We need both stations. If we were to close one of those stations down, it would dramatically increase response time to one of those areas, which is not what we want to do. Other things that play into this, administrative costs. We've had double-digit insurance increases with the district. Again, not unique to us. I'm not sure if the city has had those types of expenses. Obviously, utilities, pension contributions are up. Any service repair costs, we're bound to prevailing wage, just like the city is. So those costs are up. Again, what have we done to adjust to some of these things? Always looking at competitive bids. Look to share administrative costs along with group purchases. We do this a lot with our neighbors. I've got Northwest Community Hospital, CE, that's just an example. There was a time here where Wooddale was going it alone with their paramedic continuing education. Itasca was doing that too. They both were paying. Now we do it together, just an example. We purchase fuel through the city. That's another way, another cost savings, again, that we do. Just a couple of quick examples. And again, any grant monies that come along here, we're always looking for those. So where do we stand today? This is just a quick, again, snapshot of our revenue status. So as a rule of thumb for fire districts, it's recommended that you have 3 months reserves minimum in your rainy day fund, as some people might call it, in order to handle any type of perhaps catastrophic occurrence that may happen. For us, that 3-month total would be about $1.2 million. We currently sit at about $750,000. That's our total reserve fund right here, right now, that we have available to us. And as you can imagine, if I was to go out and buy one truck or one, I couldn't even afford a ladder truck if we were looking to replace that with that type of reserve. What's happening here, as it's happening in many fire districts, not unique to Wooddale, is that you try to stay away from those reserves, but we're chipping them away. We're having to use some of those every year to balance the budget to get through the year. And this is an ongoing thing, and it's going to continue. There's no way this is not going to continue. So once again, our only option here, unfortunately, is to come to the taxpayers that, again, I know the sentiment, and I've been here many times, and believe me, I don't relish the thought of looking at a referendum, but I think it's important that everybody understand that this is the only option the district has. We don't have an ability to generate revenue in any other way. So what's the referendum money going to be used for? Really the things that I just went over with you very quickly. There's 4 major bullet points there. Bring our staffing back to what it's been for 20 years. That's what we're looking to do. Replace aging apparatus that have become maintenance issues. Necessary repairs to our stations, and essentially pay our bills. We're not looking to do anything additional. We're not looking for new fire stations. I'm not looking to add more people, and I'm not looking to add more fire trucks. I'm just looking to keep things, maintain what we have, continue the same service level, and be able to do that into the future. We have not gone out for referendum since 2002. So it's been about 18 years since we've gone out. And again, this is why we're here tonight, okay? What's it gonna cost the average homeowner? Average price of the house in Wooddale is in the ballpark of $200,000 to $250,000. You'd be looking at $80 per $100,000 of $100,000 of EAV. So for the average increase in that average home, it'd be $160 to $200 annually. And I get that it's a big deal for a lot of people. If the referendum were to be successful, just kind of an FYI, if we were successful with it in March, we would not see those tax dollars until June 1 of '21. So the tax dollars, we would not see any of this new money, so to speak, for almost 2 years yet. So my fear is that if we don't start looking at this now, again, we are going to be chipping away at those reserves I'm talking about here. And then, of course, once the reserves are done, then we're going to need to be, unfortunately, looking at things that are a lot more drastic than that. So, yeah, so Randy.
Just a question. So
Sure.
I can appreciate the average price of the home,
Mm-hmm.
but, I mean, no knock, in my ward, that's not the case. We're all getting the same service, and we're all gonna get hammered. $500,000 house is not a rare occurrence in my subdivision.
Right?
So 5 times 80 is
That's
$400.
$400. Right.
Just for your taxing body.
Correct.
So how can you coach us so that Alderman Jacob and I can have these conversations, because we're gonna have a lot more upset people than most.
Yeah, and I understand that. Quite frankly, I don't know, I don't know that I have a good answer for you. Some of you may or may not know, I just walked down this path in Itasca. We were probably 3 years ahead of where Wooddale is now. We had gotten to the point where we were this close to depleting our entire revenue before the referendum passed. So, you know, the short answer, not a good one, is that we had a similar situation there. The house is obviously worth more money, or paying more taxes. I do not have a good answer for you. All I can tell you is that if the question is why $80, why not $40? Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be back up in front of you in a couple of years asking you for another referendum, and that's not what I want to do. So we've done a lot of math and a lot of studying on what's the right number, what gets us where we need to be, so I don't have to come back out in 3 years again and ask you for more money, because that's what's going to happen.
All right. Good. Alderman
Go ahead.
Jacob, you were first.
Couple questions. Number one, as far as a while ago, I heard that there was also talk of Wooddale, Bensonville, and Itasca consolidating into one district.
So
Would that be an option?
Great question. Just very quickly, there was a study done, and believe it or not, the union locals from Itasca, Wooddale, and Bensonville petitioned the state local to pay for a study. That study was essentially looking at a full-blown consolidation, meaning let's take all 3 fire districts, or all districts, make one department. What would that look like? The study cost about $20,000, $22,000. Took about 6 months to do. We got the results back probably 2 months ago now. What the study did, I'll tell you what it did and what it didn't do. What the study did do was it took a look at responses and our ability to get from where our fire stations are to any part of our districts. And what it found was that in all 3 districts, because of where the stations are located, that map I showed you, because of where the stations are located, each district is doing an outstanding job, not necessarily by design, but just by happenstance where the stations are located. So the overarching theme of this study wasn't to say what kind of money can we save, what kind of advantages will we have making it one big department. It was more a response and performance study. That's what the study was. And the executive summary of that study was that combining the 3 departments from a response and performance perspective would make no sense, because each town is doing it well above the 90 percentile based on the standard. So the question is not, okay, so we're covering our areas, we're getting out of the stations, we're getting to these calls in a timely fashion. What wasn't part of the study was, again, the financial, putting everybody's money in one bucket, putting all, you know, all the vehicles in making one big department. There are some challenges with this, and I'll go over them rather quickly because there's a lot of them. The first thing that's got to happen in each community is a referendum, a binding referendum. So each community has to vote that they want to disband their current department and then move into a combined department with the other 3 towns. You have to get 3 yes votes. Would that happen? I don't know. If you only got 2 of 3 or 1 of 3, obviously it doesn't fly. So the people really have control of that. If they want it, if they vote for it, and all 3 towns agree to it, then great. You know, the other things that play into here, and again, I won't get too deep into them, there are union contracts. Not that that's huge, but you've got 3 separate unionized departments that you've got to get together with a contract. You've got 3 different pension funds that you got to look to try and blend. And truly, at the end of the day, what you have here is varied tax rates. So the tax rate in Itasca is not the same as it is in Wooddale, and it's not the same as Bensonville. So you would have winners and losers in that arena too. So whatever that tax rate would be, it'd be a common theme across the board in all 3 towns. So you'd have winners and losers there. Some people would be paying more, some people might be paying less. Those are just probably some of the major hurdles here, right here and now. A lot of work there, not to say that it couldn't be done, but again, the first step would be in trying to promote a referendum that all 3 towns would have to buy in on.
Did you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Just one more question. As far as like the vehicles, could the 3 departments at least get together and say have one ladder truck? Because realistically, I mean,
So,
how often is the ladder truck used?
So, you know, one of the, ironically, that's exactly the conversation we're talking about having, certainly between like Itasca and Wooddale. Many of you know our ladder truck here in Wooddale is 20 years old. We've had some really significant mechanical issues with it for a lot of different reasons. I won't bore you with the details. So we're looking to decommission that ladder. Itasca has a truck. That truck is about 18 years old now. But I will tell you that if you look at buying like a tower ladder like Itasca has, even let's say in 5 years from now, when that truck would probably be due for replacement, that's $1.5 million just for that truck. So does it make sense to say, hey, look, let's share one? Wooddale picks up half, Itasca picks up the half. Absolutely it does. Do I think we can have that conversation? Absolutely, I do think we can have that conversation. And these are the things we're looking at. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because none of this has really materialized yet, but we've even talked within the Itasca and Wooddale ranks about potentially merging the local into one local so that we could share people. That would be extremely beneficial from an overtime perspective. So we're doing a lot of those things actually behind the scenes without necessarily even going into like a full-blown, let's make one big department. Just FYI.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yeah, you said it's going to be a binding referendum, or did you not? Is this referendum going to be binding or non-binding?
Yeah, it's a binding referendum.
So I mean, I just want the taxpayers at home to understand what a binding and a non-binding referendum mean.
Yeah, it would be. It would be.
Alderman Roy Whistler.
If the referendum does pass, what is the revenue that you think that would
So
bring
the
in?
total revenue that we would realize out of this is about $1.5 million additionally a year.
Okay. What is the total loss? If I'm understanding this right, this TIF district in the Board of Appeals is a loss of about $800,000, correct?
No, it's about 572, I think, on the TIF right now.
Yes, and
So we get a sheet from the county every year that shows us the revenue that was lost to the TIF. And I don't make these numbers up, these come from the county.
could you go
Go
back
ahead,
to
follow
that?
up.
Could you go back to that slide?
Yeah.
What is the property tax appeal board?
Did I miss it? There. I'm sorry?
Was
Go
the
ahead.
tax, isn't that where people protest their taxes in the Board of Appeals?
Yeah, the PTAB board, right.
So I'm adding that and that, that's how I come.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, correct, if you added them both up, yeah. Yeah, the PTAB board, we're getting these all the time from, a lot of businesses in town do this. Some of them do it yearly. And it's, sometimes it's small amounts. It might be a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there. Other times it's 50,000, 60,000. It can be big money, and it has been for, again, that's 6 years worth. And again, these are numbers that I'm making up. These are all, you can go on the county website and see these numbers.
Follow? Go ahead.
I got two more questions.
Sure.
So the TIF district is costing them roughly about $572,000.
That's over 4 years,
That's
not per
correct.
year.
Correct.
Be
Over
clear.
4 years. So how long, when Peter Jacobs was talking about consolidating districts, have you guys been sharing administration staff besides the chief's position between Itasca and Wooddale?
No, just me, just me.
Okay. Did the board ever think about trying to do that because the ambulance service, the only ambulance service is the same as Itasca and Wooddale, correct?
You mean as far as the system that we're in, the EMS system and such? Yeah. So, and again, let me just be clear on a couple things here. One of the advantages of having me in both places is we've done a lot to streamline what's going on in both places and made it the same. So just so you guys are aware on how the billing works for ambulance service. So if an ambulance, Wooddale's ambulance goes out to a resident in town and, treats that resident, takes that resident to the hospital, that ambulance will bill the resident's insurance, whatever insurance they have. If they don't have insurance, they don't get a bill. Okay, if they got Medicare, Medicare gets billed. If they have private insurance, that gets billed. Whatever is not covered, there is no balance bill sent to the resident. So the resident theoretically shouldn't see any bills whatsoever. Okay? When Wooddale's ambulance comes into Itasca or Itasca comes here, it's the same rule. So when Itasca comes over to Wooddale and picks up one of your residents, one of our residents, and takes them, same thing, to the hospital, we're just collecting on the insurance as if it was a Wooddale rig. Okay? So Itasca would collect the money because they're the transport vehicle and they're the only ones that can collect, is the transport vehicle. But when Wooddale comes to Itasca, the reverse applies. They're able to bill the Itasca resident for whatever insurance they have, even if it's a Wooddale ambulance. And the rates are the same. We've established the same identical rates. Does that answer your question, or?
It does. I understand how that works.
Okay.
Because I was there when the ambulance service went in.
Okay.
I just use that as an example as administration. That's what I'm saying. Like Fire Prevention Bureau, are you sharing their, with Itasca and Wooddale?
No, but these are the questions we're talking about. Everything from fire prevention to training officers to certainly, admin staff would be in bounds. Again, I don't think we're heavy in any of it, to be honest with you. When you start looking at officers' positions and stuff, we're not admin heavy by any means. I could show you some other fire departments that are twice the size administratively that we are. So, but to answer your question, yeah, some of those things are absolutely being looked at. Absolutely.
Follow up?
No, that's it.
Thank you, Chief. And just so people understand at home, that increase you're looking for in the referendum would generate about 1.5 million
Correct.
per year.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions?
No, thank you, Chief. Next, consent agenda. If no objections, I will entertain a motion. For nine items.
Hey, number two,
No,
Hold on.
take two,
Item
remove
num-
item two, please.
Remove two. Okay, so that leaves 8 items. So Alderman Wesley, Eugene, you were okay with that then?
I am.
Yeah, well. And I think, who was second on this end? Mike? Okay, Mike. You're okay, right? Okay, roll call, please.
With 2 taken off, correct?
Removing 2, yes, correct. We're gonna, that will come down under other business.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Mayor Police?
No, I don't get called here. But I'm a yes. No problem. Next, I entertain a motion to approve the items on the agenda. Item number 1, a resolution authorizing the approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Wooddale and Fenton High School District 100. Item number 3, approval of replacement of Squad 402, 406, and 407 in an amount not to exceed $106,026. Item number 4, an ordinance amending the City of Wooddale Municipal Code, Chapter 4, Article 3, regarding the sales, possession, and restrictions of tobacco products as defined by the Illinois compiled statutes. Item number 5, an ordinance providing the city stormwater and floodplain management regulations in Chapter 10 of the City Code consistent with the DuPage County-wide stormwater and floodplain ordinance approved by DuPage County on May 14, 2019. Item number 6, a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Wooddale and Baxter and Woodman Incorporated for the 2019 Streets Efficiency Study in an amount not to exceed $29,810. Item number 7, a resolution approving the contract between the City of Wooddale and John Neary Construction Company for the fiscal year 2020 Hiawatha Sewer Repair Project not to exceed the amount of $23,800. Item number 8, approval of final project cost for contract I-14-4638, Illinois Route 390 ITS project in an amount not to exceed $19,530.15. Item number 9, an ordinance denying approval of the final plan of consolidation of 3 lots located at 131, 133 Center Street and 140 Florina Court, Wooddale, Illinois. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
And that passes. Next, committee chairman reports, planning and zoning. Alderman Jacob.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Public health and safety, Alderman Sorrentino.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Public works, Alderman Catalano.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Finance and administration,
No report, Mayor.
Alderman Woods, thank you. Under other business, we will go back to item number 2. I need a motion to approve an ordinance amending the City of Wooddale Municipal Code, Chapter 14, to enact the offenses of theft and criminal damage to property. Do I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second.
Questions? Alderman Woods.
Yeah, on this, I was, a resident reached out to me and had some questions about the legality of this ordinance. I know I've gone back and forth with the resident, reading the ordinance, the case law that he was citing, some stuff from the IML, some stuff from the Attorney General. And so I think maybe appropriately the city attorney will do a better job explaining than I will of going through that. Mr.
Conley.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Conley.
The concern from the resident is whether the city can adopt an anti-theft ordinance under its police powers. We've taken a look at this, and under the Illinois Municipal Code, the city does have the authority to pass ordinances under its police powers. prohibiting conduct such as this. So in our legal opinion, we do not have any issue with the legality of this ordinance.
Alderman Woods, you have a follow-up on that?
Is there a little more meat and potatoes to, because it's one thing I know that that probably won't sit well with the resident to just say, yeah, we can do it. I mean, he cited a case, maybe you could touch on that case and its relevance, the one that I passed on to you,
Right,
to hear, to help him understand it maybe better based on what he's presenting.
right. So there is.
Go ahead, Mr. Conway.
There is a third district case. The City of Wooddale sits in the second district, so the third district, while it does have some controlling value, it's really the second district that controls the conduct in the City of Wooddale. What that case looked at was the Illinois Municipal Code and provisions in there, and that case determined that the Illinois Municipal Code didn't have a specific provision that would allow it was the City of Kewanee to adopt this anti-theft ordinance. We've taken a look at the case. It's a 1980 case. We actually disagree with the case. In the municipal code, it specifically says that this city council can pass ordinances pursuant to its police power. There is also, as you know, in the criminal code that prohibits theft. So there's additional authority in the criminal code, the criminal statutes, for the city council to rely on. So it's our opinion that we're well within your right to pass this ordinance.
Follow-up, go ahead, Alderman Woods.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, because and this is my own reading in reading the case, and even under this case in the third district where they invalidated the Kewanee's ordinance, I think in part that was a couple different things. One, they were seeking jail time, as they admitted to, which we wouldn't be able to do. This is a misdemeanor thing.
Correct.
And that, along with the new laws being passed, I think in 2012, and the new House bill that changed theft or grand theft from $500 to $2,000. It's a whole big movement. And then they narrowly crafted the language saying that they were invalidating this ordinance, and they used that specific language, not retail theft ordinances in general, just this ordinance. And I think it was the application that they were using and not necessarily the ability to have it. So for all it's worth, I concur.
And I
Go ahead,
concur
Mr.
with Alderman Woods'
All right.
interpretation.
Alderman Messina, you had a question also, I saw?
Yeah, Attorney Conway, could you reiterate for those watching at home the value of, so we have it in the criminal code. What's the value of also having criminality in the municipal code?
Go ahead, Mr. Conway.
It allows the city to prosecute at the local level, either in circuit court or in the city system of administrative adjudication. So I think there's great value in being able to do that locally.
Follow-up, go ahead. Alderman Messina.
So, I mean, I guess the value to me is what a criminal efficiency. I mean, some could call it a money grab. That's one of the comments I got was this is our opportunity to adjudicate people here at the local level, prosecute these cases and take some of those fines versus those monies collected going to the county. So how do you refute that?
Mr. Conway.
Well, your entire system of administrative adjudication is designed to prosecute at the local level. So as opposed to having to go to the county courthouse, residents can come to an adjudication locally. And so I think it does dovetail with that system.
Last week you mentioned something about, so these misdemeanors don't end up on your record or something, if I recall correctly. What was that? Just, I don't know, maybe you weren't here, I might be asking the wrong question.
Well, if we prosecute an administrative adjudication, it's what's called quasi-criminal, and it would result in a fine. If it's taken to the circuit court, it'd be prosecuted criminally, and it would be on your criminal record.
Alderman Wesley, you were next, go ahead.
So this would not get
prosecuted in Addison Court. It would go to,
It can.
Mr. Conway.
It can.
Okay.
That would be the option of the city.
so
Go ahead, follow up.
we go through the administration hearing here. If they're found guilty, they have the right to appeal to the circuit court.
Correct.
Go ahead. Go
Why
ahead.
can't they just have the appeal to, they should be able to appeal it to Addison Court? Or why can't we just do it to Addison Court?
Go ahead,
Like I
Mr.
said,
Conway.
It's the option of the city. The city can prosecute
Because-
administrative adjudication or it can prosecute in the circuit court.
Go ahead. Follow up.
Because I feel if that's the case, it should go to Addison Court where a judge is paid for by, out of all the taxpayers of the county, not the judges here that we have administrative here, is paid for by the city, also the prosecutor. So I feel that this should just go to Addison Court and belongs there because it's 30 days. I mean, and all the if you go to circuit court, all they do for the after administration, see if everything was done right. That's all. But we're paying the judge here. The city's paying the judge.
Alderman Messina, you had another question?
I'm good.
Correct? That was a question to the attorney.
Well, yeah, the administrative adjudication here is paid by the city.
Okay.
That's- yeah. Alderman Woods, you had another question? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, more a statement. I mean, again, going back to this, the underlying theme here is, and this has been going on for a while, that the state courts, the county courts, second district, third district, all are inundated with court cases, and anything they can do to lessen the burden, that's part of the reason that they most recently, with House Bill 1614, raised grand theft from 500 to 2,000 to reduce the number of people in front of them in the courthouse, to try to reduce the crowding in the jail system and try to eliminate giving people, young people, a record early for being stupid if they're 15, 16, 17 years old, when they could take care of that administratively here. It's up to the police officer, and the deputy police chief could speak to that if I say something incorrectly. It's up to the arresting officer to how they would charge, whether that goes to adjudication or if that's something that gets bumped up to Addison Court or county court, and that's based on their record and the amount of money. And again, these are only misdemeanors. These are the smallest of the small crimes, not the felonies or anything else. So it's in an effort to help alleviate the burden on the courts, the jails, and not get these young people records early for doing something stupid.
Speeding ticket is
Deputy Chief Freeze, if you want to make a comment, or?
Thanks. I just want to clarify one thing, because I heard it come up a couple times. Our intention with this ordinance change or amendment is not to take this to administrative adjudication at this point. It's used as an alternate charging mechanism. So when we have a case, whether it be a juvenile or even an adult, when it doesn't rise to the level of criminal courts going out to the Wheaton Courthouse on a misdemeanor, Class A, Class B, Class C, we will issue a citation under our local ordinance. We have the option at that time to assign a monetary fine only, which starts at $50, which is what we normally do. If it rises to another level, let's say a little bit higher of a theft, we use our discretion, and it automatically gets assigned to the Addison Traffic Court, as Alderman Wesley had mentioned. So that is the procedure that we plan on following with this. It just gives us another way to kind of keep people having a clean record, those that don't deserve to go to the criminal court system.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope that helps.
A follow-up? Go ahead, Alderman Wesley.
So what he just said, we don't have that in the ordinance that is going to go.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the
You-
question.
You don't have that in the ordinance that is going to go to, you could go to administration.
It
It's not in the-
sounded like they have the authority to make that determination.
We do, yes.
Go ahead, Chief.
Yes, we do have the authority to make the determination on how the people are charged. The circuit court allows us to assign a local ordinance ticket to through the circuit court in Addison, which is basically your traffic court, where they also hear local ordinance cases at the same time.
Alderman Messina, go ahead.
So how would you guys vet out to keep it objective? So it's not subjective. How would you guys protect that, right? So one of us get in trouble, and you look at it like, oh, go ahead, it's Randy. Hey, come on in, pay a fine. what, can you just explain for us and those at home, what is that protection? Is there, I'm assuming there's a review?
Sounds like it depends on the crime, correct?
It does. There is, our supervisors, all the way up to myself or even the chief, oversee how crimes are being charged and if the officers are using good discretion.
Okay.
And that happens on a daily basis, and that happens on traffic tickets also. That's a common theme. We watch over, what citations are being issued and how they're being issued and how it's going through the courts. We also reflect a lot of our actions on how the courts are reacting to the cases that we bring towards them. The juvenile court system is denying us misdemeanor and felony cases through the court system. So we're back to square one where we don't have an option to do anything with those juveniles because they might not be eligible for a peer jury program here. So it's kind of gone full circle where we have to find alternate ways to handle these things.
All right. Alderman Jacob, go ahead.
In what Alderman Messina just said, you had said it's subject to the officer. So before it goes in front of anybody, do you guys discuss that with the officer, or is it just each officer just makes his own determination?
Yeah, absolutely. On a daily basis in an 8-hour shift, if an officer makes an arrest, the supervisor is involved in that from almost the first start. And we trust them with the good judgment to, if it rises to a different level, to take it to that next level and come, and then the answer to us on Monday morning, was this the right thing to do and why it wasn't done?
Thank you. All right, we have a, let's see, did we get the, no, I didn't get a motion yet.
Motion is second.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
no.
was.
No.
Sosmarsky and Jake.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I marked it up here on my notes, I apologize. Alderman Sosmarsky and Alderman Jacob, second. All right, roll call, please.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sosmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
No.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
And that passes. Okay, next, airport noise, Alderman Jacob.
Just want to update everybody, there was a recent FAA released a press announcement. So the Federal Aviation Administration announced the release of the final reevaluation report for the proposed interim fly quiet plan. The fly quiet runway rotation plan, it was proposed by the O'Hare Noise Compatibility Commission in 2017 to provide relief from the nighttime noise for the communities around O'Hare. The interim plan is expected to be in place from November 2019 to May of 2020, and from September 2020 to January of 2021. The plan will be impacted by airfield construction projects, which will result in reverting the original Fly Quiet program during those periods. The ONCC Fly Quiet Committee is now considering options for fiscal quarter 21, year 2021, a new Fly Quiet plan to be in place once OMP is completed and full build-out is reached. That's kind of a summary. This is going to be available on our website, I believe, for anybody if they want to read the whole thing. That was just a summary of the whole document. That
Thank you.
concludes.
Stormwater Commission, Alderman Wesley, no, thank you. Item number C needs to be taken out, strike from the agenda because it is not ready. Go ahead, Alderman Wesley. Well, the attorney is working on it. Mr. Murmas?
Yeah, we're not sure if that course of action is still the course we're going to follow. There is an email that I sent earlier this week that detailed kind of maybe a new course. So that would be something to reference, and I think the city attorney will probably have another update next week on that.
All right. And next, we have approved list of bills. Alderman Woods.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the list of bills for July 4th, 2019, in the amount of $462,601.88.
So moved.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any questions on those bills? Yes, Alderman Wesley, go ahead.
I have one on page 3, Jim's
all bodies for $1,872.
Does it say, do we know which car? Is it Brad? Is it a squad car or utility, squad? Deputy Chief?
Yeah. I can answer. Is the answer?
Go ahead, Deputy Chief.
Thank you. I don't have the exact details, but I can get those to you. It was involving one of our detective cars.
Thank you.
Alderman Messina, you had
I
a,
thought there was a response already. I think I may have asked you about this prior,
what you asked, but
about the same.
you probably got the response. Okay, we'll get you the response.
Yeah, if you want a formal response, I mean,
Yeah.
you know the gist of it, right? Because I asked you this question. Do you want, are you prepared to answer it, or?
Mr. Wilson, do you
Okay.
remember? Okay. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I called you already.
Yeah, it was undercover operation, and the detective in question was pulling out, and I think there was caught a curb a little bit too hard and did a little bit of damage to the car. No priors or anything to that effect from the employee, and so it was an undercover operation, and just
All right, thank you. Do you have a follow-up? Did you have, you only one? Any other ones on this one? Roll call, please.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
No.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Next,
And
I'd
that
like to make,
passes.
next I'd like to make a motion to approve the list of bills for July 18th, 2019, in the amount of $683,037.36.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Is that Alderman Jacob second?
Alderman Jacob, second.
Okay. Questions on these? Roll call, please.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
And that passes. Next, executive session. We do need to adjourn into executive session for land acquisition. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.